Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is Craig Hath with Dscoop. I'm joined with Sylvia Martinez, also from Dscoop, and Dragan Nikolic from Nobelus. We'll begin our presentation in just a few moments as we give everyone a chance to get logged in. And just giving everyone a few moments to get logged in before we start today's presentation. Again, thank you for joining us, and please stand by for just a few moments. All right, we'll begin our presentation in just a few moments. Again, thank you for joining us today. And stand by, and we'll begin shortly. All right, well, thank you, everyone. I'm Craig Hath with Dscoop, and I'm joined today with Sylvia Martinez from Dscoop, as well as Dragan Nikolic from Nobelus. And welcome to Prime Time for Prime Labels, presented by Nobelus. Before we begin, please let me mention that all the attendees will be in listen-only mode throughout the presentation. And we would like to make today's presentation as interactive as possible. So if you do have a question, please post it by clicking on the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen at any time. And we will answer your questions during the Q&A session that we have planned for the end of the presentation. And just one other reminder that today's presentation is being recorded and will be made available afterwards. It'll be on dscoop.com, and or you can reach out to Dragan directly for your own copy. If you do have any questions after the webinar, please post them to Dscoop's collaborative forums, and that URL is listed here on your screen, or email us at hello@dscoop.org. So please let me introduce you to Dragan Nikolic from Nobelus. Dragan leads business development for Nobelus and is an expert in digital finishing and embellishment. We're excited to have him with us today. And Dragan, I'll turn it over to you.
Excellent, Craig. Sylvia, thank you very much. Welcome to everyone. Let me be the first to just speak on behalf of Nobelus and tell you how thankful we are to be part of this wonderful community. Dscoop community, as well as the HP Indigo community. We are a HP Indigo business partner with specialty finishing as Nobelus. And as Craig said, I am Dragan Nikolic, business development manager for Nobelus. And basically my job is to advocate for specialty finishing and the benefits that it can bring to brands and meet their desired outcomes. And at Nobelus, you see our slogan here. It says, "Consider it finished." And below is our mission: enhancing people, partners, and the world's brands. And just to touch a little bit on the brand part, when we think about brands at Nobelus, of course, today we're here to talk about consumer packaged goods, particularly in the narrow and mid-web label and flexible packaging divisions. However, at Nobelus, we also think of brands in the private sector. For example, a company with a logo that needs representation and also wants to stand out among the crowd and become memorable. Our films, the Nobelus set of films and foils can certainly lend a big hand to helping brands differentiate. And then on the other level, it's a personal brand too, right? We as individuals are brands ourselves. When you think about a wedding, for example, it has to be themed. It has to have some level of personalization. It has to communicate how amazing your wedding is going to be with the invitations, etc. And again, Nobelus films and overall lamination solutions can fulfill that quite well, especially in combination with HP Indigo output. So the agenda here for today, we're going to talk about labels quite a bit, but it's sort of all encompassing, you know, the entire digital platform from HP Indigo is quite compelling. We've seen some of the new systems that have been launched here recently, so very exciting. And then of course we're so lucky to be part of this group because we're poised to go into the future with great confidence, following HP Indigo and their development. Now, the agenda that we'll cover today: brand differentiation and print enhancement. Two very buzzwordy phrases there, but they are quite important and they carry a lot of weight. So we will spend most of our time there today. We will talk about some of the verticals that we're seeing as strong performers in the usage of specialty films and their strive to differentiate. And then we'll cover the emergence of thermal film application in the narrow and mid-web world on the digital platform. This is something that is quite cutting edge, and we'll cover that, and I'll explain how these films can be applied. And lastly, we'll go over some of the films that you're going to see here today that I will demonstrate in a little bit. And of course, just remember that the scope is quite wide. I won't go through each and every film here today, but rest assured, if you have a need or a customer that is looking for something very special and specific, we can certainly get together and discuss. Perhaps there's a film out there that you didn't see today that would meet some of those needs. So the first topic here is brand differentiation and print enhancement. And, you know, that is actually my cue to jump into full screen mode and tell you a little story. But first, as a precursor, it is going to be about something we call cross-market ingenuity, or CMI, as we call it internally. So cross-market ingenuity is something that we are seeing happen more and more with brands and brands that are using consumer packaged goods. Now, within brands, their own packaging portfolio is starting to expand. It's starting to diversify, whether it's pivoting or whether it's entering new market or a new specific target audience. These new packages require multiple technologies from various platforms. So it's not necessarily a brand that just uses a jar and requires a pressure sensitive label. They might need something within the digital pouch. They might even need a folding carton, and they might even need some commercial print collateral, right? So what cross-market ingenuity is really the coming together of all print technologies to serve increasing market demand for diversification, and then in turn helping with differentiation at the retail shelf or in the exploding e-commerce world with home delivery. So what I'm going to do is go through a little bit of an exercise with you to bring cross-market ingenuity to life. So let's go on vacation just for a brief moment. I'm sure you don't mind. Imagine we are non-crisis time. We're in a small town, beautiful lake nearby. It's a summer evening. We just had some dinner with the family and we're ready to walk it off. And inevitably, this small town has a little chocolatier shop in it. So we're certainly going to find our way in there, because who doesn't like some ice cream or some sweets on a nice summer evening? And when you walk into this chocolatier shop, what's the first thing that hits you? It's the smell, right? Wham! It's a sensory experience. It's ready to open my appetite. It's ready for to open my wallet back up and spend a little money on some sugar and my family. So that right away is an experience that that again is getting me in the mood to enter this establishment. So as I walk in, I pick up their little seasonal menu, and the seasonal menu is printed with the Indigo 7900 commercial sheet fed press and laminated with the Nobelus Caress soft touch over laminate. So despite the beautiful graphics that it has, once I pick this up, it's a second sensory experience. So now I've got a 1-2 punch. It's the scent and then of course the touch. And this, when I feel this menu, you know, it really aligns with how I feel about chocolate and sweets. It's luscious, it's luxurious. So two senses have been appealed to already. It's a pretty powerful combination. So as I walk through the store and look at what type of truffles I'm going to select, and certainly I'm going to hold on to this and bring it back to show to my printer friends, right? So the next thing I do, I walk into the retail area and I pick up this digital pouch. And this digital pouch is printed with an HP Indigo 20,000 laminated thermally with the Carlville thermal mid-web laminator using the Nobelus Caress over laminate film, the same one that's on this menu. So now the momentum is building. The sensory experience has continued. I pick up this bag, it matches the graphics beautifully, but also it's aligned with the sensory experience. So now I have two items that I'm already have increased my perceived value of this Lux Chocolatier brand. So as I venture through more, ready to spend a little more because I'm liking my experience, I pick up this little rigid box here, and it has some pressure sensitive labels on it, one around and one here on top. But what do you know? It has the exact same surface effect as the menu and as this pouch does. And this label here is printed with the HP Indigo 6900, then laminated with the ABG Digicon Series 3. There are two ways that you could laminate Lux Films with a digital finishing or converting device. The most common way today is using a UV curable adhesive by wet laminating the film to the substrate by adding a curable adhesive, running it through the UV curing lamps, and you get a wonderful bond to the substrate with this base unsupported film. The other method is actually to laminate it thermally, which is an emerging technology, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So great experience so far. I go ahead, I've selected the truffles that I want. I go to the refrigerated case, I make that selection, and they put it in this folding carton box, right? And again, the sensory experience continues because it has the same surface effect as the label, as the menu, and as the pouch. And this here is printed with the HP Indigo 30,000, and then once again laminated with the Nobelus Caress over laminate film. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is called cross-market ingenuity. It is the diversification of brands as they expand their packaging portfolio, but are looking for consistency with the same surface effect, the same experience to the client, to the customer. So hopefully that was a decent demonstration of cross-market ingenuity. And I will jump in to just review once more what cross-market ingenuity is. Very good. So again, cross-market ingenuity is the coming together of different technologies. It's not necessarily from one, but it's an evolution. It's a trend that's happening. It's a commercial printer that's bringing in the label press. It's the label converter that's bringing in the digital sheet fed press. And while it's certainly not a common thing today, imagine down the road with convergence and streamlining in our printing industry that's happening every single day. It makes perfect sense. And we also know this, by the way, our own revenue and our own numbers are serving different verticals. Label, narrow web is really the fastest growing segment of our business. And then as that enters into new markets, we see how the pattern is being created. And just to explain why cross, why market, why ingenuity, cross really is the word that implies the movement of our films across various verticals. And market is really represents the entire breadth of the print industry. And of course, ingenuity is a word that means a lot to us because we're relentlessly pursuing new innovative solutions to meet new market demands using specialty films. And as a printer, some of the benefits that you could bring to your sales teams, to your clients, are new solutions that they weren't even aware existed before, right? With your capabilities, the digital platform with HP Indigo has so much firepower. Now combine that with a value add surface effect, you can't lose, and you're providing that client or the consumer a memorable experience. And when you think about what a CPG is set out to do by a brand, it exists to first engage the customer. It can be on the retail shelf at Target in the personal care aisle, or it can be online with Amazon, and it's really the thumbnails that are competing for your attention. But where we feel Nobelus can really lend a great hand to creating a memorable experience. Once that client picks that package up, you want to create a sense of ownership. You don't want them to put it back, right? Whether it's an unboxing experience or something that just feels good and increases that perceived value of that CPG is really what's important. You want to give them a memorable experience, which then leads to brand loyalty, and that's where the magic happens. That's where the top line revenue increases. That is also where the consumer is willing to spend more within that brand and discover more products, because again, you're giving them an experience just through a CPG embellishment and value add effect. And that's really ultimately where it all starts. And just going back to the slide here, what salesperson doesn't want something new to bring to their clientele? And this is something this portfolio of films can absolutely do, and exceed expectations. And really, as a salesperson, we all want to position ourselves as the trusted advisor to know our client's industry as good, if not even better than they do. And here with market opportunity, we're going to talk a little bit more about the senses. And, when I look at this, first of all, these statistics are from Key Point Intelligence. There's also some wonderful studies made by Clemson University. And, when you look at these numbers, it really communicates what the opportunity is. 83% of all print and packaging today engages only 1 sense, but we see what kind of an impact it makes when you appeal to a second or a third sense, right? It leads to that brand loyalty even faster. So therein lies your great market opportunity, is that 83% of packaging currently has plenty of room for improvement. One more mention, there's a wonderful book out there made by Sappi. It's called The Neuroscience of Touch. A little background on myself, I worked in retail for 14 years for a high-end luxury retailer. So I fully understand the art of engaging, the art of creating a memorable experience. But where it all tied together for me once I entered the print industry is by reading that book by Sappi, The Neuroscience of Touch, and it really communicates how valuable that touch really is and how it makes a person, us, a consumer, feel when they pick up a specialty packaging. And here are some markets, probably very familiar to most of you, quite obvious, but these are some of the verticals that we see with some heavy usage with our films. The newest one to the group, no doubt, is cannabis. And cannabis is a perfect candidate for cross-market ingenuity, because if you think about the various products that it is delivered in, you have the flower, and that usually requires a jar and a pressure-sensitive label to identify what it might be and to communicate what level of quality it is. It also might go into a flexible packaging to be sealed for freshness. There are concentrates, the oils that are either jarred and labeled, or they might be put in a folding carton box that then requires a level of security. There are some Lux films that have a tear-resistant characteristic to it in combination with that caress surface effect. So quite a large scope of films out there that can meet certain security demands as well. And then the third would be the edibles, right? Very potent. You need some child security there. Flexible packaging is a great solution for that. So our folding cartons with some type of a locking mechanism. And then once again, that tear-resistant characteristic is a great complement that Nobelus Lux Films has. So now we'll get into the thermal film application. This is, again, an emerging technology. Right now, today, still, the most common application method of our films is with UV laminating. So that's applying a UV curable adhesive. We have one that is spec'd out from Actiga that we can offer some data sheets to in case you're curious about that. And then the other method, obviously, is thermal. And thermal is a solution that we're partnering with ABG, the Dragan Series 3. You're able to actually get that today as a module that has a thermal nip roller to activate the thermal adhesive that's on the backside of the film, and then makes contact with the substrate and makes a beautiful bond, and onward you go. The reason why thermal aligns so well with the digital platform is because it's perfect to cater to those short run value add, regional brands that are looking to differentiate, but it also lends a great hand in creating less waste. And then the variety of films is really where it becomes quite lopsided versus the self-wounds and even some other methods as well. So really how that works, it's quite simple. You're obviously still printing on your prelam structure, your substrate, and then you will nearline laminate with a digital converting device, thermally, obviously. And then these films are very, very compatible with further finishing, embellishments, and enhancement. So it's very important to remember that it's not just one or the other. It's not, I can use the film, but then I can't use my spart varnish, hot foil, or cold foil. It's actually both. So just imagine the creativity that opens up. Imagine that these films are basically a new surface to print on and embellish on. So the creativity within the design departments at the brand level, at your print department and pre-press is it's really endless. You have such a wide scope of creativity that you can tap into. So this chart here has a lot of information, obviously. Really what I'd like you to pay attention to are the last two columns there over to the right, comparing self-wound and thermal, because clearly self-wound is without a doubt the highest usage right now, and as it should. It's an easy over laminate application, kind of brainless, thoughtless. You just put it on. But what is important to note is that right there is an opportunity to enhance something, right? And with self-wound, your options are quite limited. If you look from the top and go down, there's some very comparable metrics there, but when you look at the variety of available finishes, with self-wound, there's gloss, there's matte, but then if you can laminate thermally, it opens up the full catalog of the Lux Films portfolio. So not only can you still do the gloss and the matte, but you can also do all of these value add finishing effects. And then in addition to that, you can print, overprint, spot varnish, foil, hot foil on top of these films too, because they have such a high surface tension and dyne level, typically around 44. Again, I do want to mention today, as things stand, the UV cure through process is still the the most common that we encounter, and how we serve that market is not obviously with thermal films, but with virgin films or unsupported base films. Now, all that means is it just doesn't have a thermally activated adhesive on the back side, but it does still have the value add effect on the customer facing side. So there's about 5 or 6 films that you could use for UV cure through, and then there are some applications where you could actually add the curable adhesive on top of the thermal adhesive, and it still works. However, again, we're seeing the trend move towards thermal because of some obvious benefits to it. So these are some partners that are quite progressive here in the US that have adopted the thermal nip capability and ramping up with their volume. Each of them is kind of in a different stage, but certainly you could even reach out to some of these companies and inquire how that is going and developing. However, I think even since this slide was created, there's been a few more that have taken on the thermal nip with the ABG Digicons. So moving finally over to our popular Lux Films. And again, traditionally, Nobelus has served the commercial cut sheet market. And, these films are applied with equipment that Nobelus integrates with, a thermal roller to activate that thermal adhesive, bond it to the sheet and substrate. And then in some cases, you can even overprint and do variable foil. However, with this strong diversification where we started to serve these different verticals within packaging, and it's resulting in some quite spectacular finishes and designs that we're seeing from some of our partners that are using these films. So for a few years now, we've been serving the narrow and wide web. And again, I would say a year and a half ago, it was sort of a bleeding edge solution because these are films that the web community has really never seen before. But now we're still at that cutting edge level, so there's still plenty of time until it hits mainstream. And again, quite a variety. What you've seen here today that I've demonstrated is the Caress film. There it is. And again, very tactile film, high coefficient of friction, which means that, when you put or rub your finger up against it, there's a drag to it. It's not really smooth. So again, that tactile feel. And very important to remember is that these films are highly compatible with further finishing technology. Where if you think about the sheet-fed world, if you think about Scodix, we are on the recommended material list of Scodix. But then in the narrow web world, some of you may be familiar with the Jet FX spot varnish module that we are also validated for. So you can embellish these films quite significantly to really serve that demand for differentiation. The next film is Scuff Proof. And Scuff Proof, I call it the sleeper film because it's a basic matte film. However, it has some very strong characteristics to it. It is indeed a scuff proof, a burnish proof film that is quite difficult to mar unless you stab it, I guess. But nevertheless, this is a perfect item for electronics, for items that are going to be handled a lot or reused, or of course, something that is going to encounter significant friction within transit. Once again, very compatible with further finishing, embellishments, etc. The next film is fine leather. Fine leather and fine linen. These are indeed tactile films, although they provide a very visually pleasing effect to increase the perceived value of CPG. And there are actually 2 versions of the linen. There's a lavish linen and then a fine linen. The lavish is even more tactile. That actually is dedicated solely for the narrow web world or wide web, mid web. and it's an unsupported film, so it is dedicated strictly for that UV curing process until the thermal is absolutely necessary. The next film here is Ultra Matte. This is similar to the scuff-proof film with characteristics that are, scuff resistant. However, the matteness of this film is outstanding for significant contrast when it comes to something that is using specific Pantone, something that you really want to dull down and then maybe embellish on top of to really create quite an impactful, layered, multi-layered effect. Our newest film is called Rainbow Holographic. This is a fully holographic film that is shimless. And when we say shimless, it basically means it's very difficult to find, practically impossible to find the source of the holographic pattern, which means regardless of what direction you're handling a piece of package in, you will maintain a very visually appealing effect. In fact, I have a label sample here that I can show you, which is, and you can kind of see my my reflection there, but nevertheless, you see that it's a very good item for point of sale, something that'll attract the consumer's attention and perhaps build on the existing transaction. Oh, the Lavish linen, as I discussed, a bit more tactile than the fine linen, and just perfect for the digital pouch, label applications, anything that is going to need an increased perceived value, right? So whether it's cosmetics or jewelry or some personal care items, this can absolutely go on a narrow web label, mid web for digital, and just even in the future it'll probably be a thermal film as well. So here is a slide of who we are. We are indeed film innovators, and we're dedicated to launching at least a few films a year to bring to the market to serve that new market demand. Here are our locations. We are based in Knoxville, Tennessee, with a sister headquarter there in Chicago, Illinois, which is where I'm located, and that is where also our main production hub is, and where we're running slitting equipment. We can cut as narrow as, I believe, 4 inches, and then of course as wide as 71. So anything in between there, we can provide to you. And then some fulfillment centers around the country here. We have, in addition to Nobelus.com, is NobelusUniversity.com, which is a repository of wonderful information that is there for open to the public to to get informed on certain films, launches, etc. And for this webinar and for any Dscoop member, really, we've created this specific landing page. So by all means, there are some kits that we have to offer, like you saw today, that cross-market ingenuity kit, or a label kit containing all the brochures of the various films that are accessible to you as a label converter. Or, and again, you can submit that request here at www.nobelus.com/HP_CMI. And this is me, Dragan Nikolic, once again, Business Development Manager. I am indeed the partner relationship liaison to HP Indigo. So I am often in contact with the HP community. And of course, it's my job to understand their capabilities and their presses and how our films can complement certain output. And then, of course, sustainability. I'm told that's something that I hold near and dear to me. So if you have any questions about that, by all means, feel free to ask. So I believe that will be all for me, ladies and gentlemen, I wonder if we might have some questions from the crowd.
Yeah, we do, Dragan. Thank you very much. The first one is, how does Nobelus address sustainability?
Perfect. Okay. Well, I just left on that topic, right? So yes, sustainability, obviously we are a film developer, right? So we handle plastic. So we need to first and foremost look at our business on multiple levels. There is production optimization, and then there's the end of life of the product, right? First, within our organization, we have put in place some optimization software where we're taking master roles and we're absolutely maximizing the usage of that to create as little waste as possible. Our goal is 1%. I believe right now we might be at 2.5-ish. So we still have a little bit ways to go. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, when you are taking on questions of sustainability, it's not always about end of life, right? You need to work with companies that are handling their products very responsibly in the production. Because if I take 1 million footprints to create to you or bring to you a fully compostable product or even recyclable, and then okay, so I took 1 million footprints to create this, right? But then what if I can only take 250 footprints to create a product that is something that is maybe in-store recyclable, right? Or in-store drop-off. So you have to understand it's a very complex model. The production has a lot to do with the waste creation. And if I create more waste in production to deliver something that is fully sustainable on the end of life, it's really not that sustainable, is it? So important to consider how that product is actually being developed with the footprints that it's taking. Now, on the other end is the end of life. Currently, there are some films, you've seen something with the mono layer out there. You know, these are films, again, currently that are not recyclable in standard curbside recycling streams. And that really is what the consumer here in America is willing, that's as far as we're willing to go, is to recycle things, to put it in the blue bin, to sort it, collect it, put it over to the side in our own homes, and then drive it to a store drop-off for recycling is not a very realistic solution. So what we're doing at Nobelus is we are in development of a film that will ultimately be something that the American consumer can feel confident whether disposing in the recycling bin or even putting it in the standard trash because it's going to decompose and not, you know, affect the landscape any further. So it's a complicated development model, but I can guarantee you that we will have something that that will meet these demands. And one more thing, we're also really at the mercy of our regional facilities. With folding cartons, we found that when our films are laminated between 14, 16, and 18-point board, you still recover 70% of the repulpable pulp that goes into the recycling stream, and the remaining goes into industrial waste. So I hope that answered the question. It's a very complex model, but I'm always willing to talk about it and be extremely candid about it because that's how I want to represent ourselves for sure.
That was very clear. Thank you. The next one comes is, can I retrofit my converting system with a thermal nip roller?
Very good. So the way I would answer that is contact your manufacturer, the OEM, because it's not just necessarily ABG Digicon. ABG has the capability actually to answer that question. If you do have an ABG Digicon, you can purchase that individual lamination module to retrofit, and off you go with thermal. However, there are some manufacturers that may not that are probably not nearly as far along as that. And that's okay. You know, I would still recommend that you inquire about that to let them know this is something of great interest to you because you want to expand your portfolio and want to offer these thermal films, again, to align with the mission of digital, which is ultimately creating more sustainable solutions and meeting that short run demand. So, so yes, with the ABG Digicon, you can retrofit. With others, at this point, we're not aware of any other manufacturer that is offering that. However, please do ask your partner and include me and us, and we can figure it out because it may actually be, may not necessarily be as difficult as you think for a retrofit to add a thermal roller.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next one and last for now is how do the costs of thermal films compare to self-wound, particularly for gloss or matte and matte?
Yeah. Forgive me. I think I had that. I wanted to discuss that a little bit. So very comparable. When you look at gloss, self-wound gloss thermal, it actually is about the same regardless of volume. In fact, I would argue that we probably could be even more competitive and meet the demands and really make a lot of sense for you to transition into thermal. When it comes to matte, it's quite advantageous. So when you compare thermal matte film to matte self-wound, I think we're at least 30% less in cost, if not significantly more than that. I'm just trying to be conservative. But and then when you get into the value add films, you know, obviously there is value there that we need to communicate to the client of the benefits of differentiating themselves and how that will result into the brand loyalty on the back end. So you know, we can help you sell, teach you how to sell the value of specialty films. And I think that's very important because, you know, your salespeople, you as an owner really need to be confident in the way you deliver that message and the results that will absolutely happen to a brand when they opt for a value add effect with a specialty film on their CPG. Anything
actually,
from the panel?
Yeah, no, thank you. And actually, we do have one more. It comes from Sergio Ramirez and says, "Hi, we are using your products, PET lamp, gloss, and matte, in a pack ready, but we note difference between the BOP matte and the PET matte. Do you have something more matte for PET?"
It's a good question, Sergio. Thank you. I think, I don't know if we have something more matte. I think perhaps we should, that's a question that we should probably take offline. Maybe I'm not understanding it completely, but if we're looking at a PET film versus a BOP, there are some differences, no doubt, and we can take a kind of a measurement of you know, measuring the gloss points to meet your customer's demand. So if something is not matte enough, perhaps it would be an ultra matte. Perhaps it could be a scuff proof, but if it has to be the PET, there are some other films, and there is even a Caress PET that could work. So I will definitely reach out to you, Sergio, afterwards. And I believe if I heard right, that was from Eticom. And of course, we will get you in touch with myself and then Jeff, I think, is who you're working with. So very good question. Thank you for that. We'll look into it.
Well, that's it. Thank you very much, Dragan. We don't have any. Oh, hold on. I think we have one more.
Good.
Ah, no, it just said, Sergio says thank you, that was all.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I'm glad. Very good, Sergio.
Okay. So I pass over to Craig.
Thank you, Dragan. Thank you, Sylvia. Fantastic presentation today, Dragan. Thank you very much. Very informative, exciting. Love this new technology. If we don't have any other questions, then we would love to just thank you for attending today and remind you that that this webinar has been recorded and will be available for you to review on dscoop.com. Also, if we didn't get to all your questions, please reach out to us at dscoop.com forum 59638, the URL on your screen, or email us at hello@dscoop.org. And if we can help in any way, please contact us at dscoop.org. We'd love to get you connected and help you grow your business. Finally, after this webinar, you'll receive information about a very brief survey. Please take the moment to fill that out. It's only 3 questions. And we're also adding new webcasts every week. So tell us what topics you're interested in, and we will get those pursued for you. With that, if there aren't any other questions, I'll let everyone go. Have a wonderful day, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.